All right, hello. Excited to be kicking off LisCon here in Lisbon. Uh, let's give a round of applause to the organizers for putting on this great event. And the Ethereum ecosystem is on fire right now. It's such an exciting time to be working on decentralization. I'm going to be talking about web3 today and what we need to do to finish building out this platform. So I tweeted this last month, and so that's basically my talk. So I can spend the rest of my time up here hitting harmonies or something. But yeah, I do want to give credit where credit is due. The idea of decentralized applications running on a world computer was part of the Ethereum vision from the very beginning when it launched in 2015. And the work that Juan Benet's done on IPFS and the whole Protocol Labs team has been really foundational to the space. So I really consider these guys to be kind of the original fathers of Web3. We started working on the graph in 2017, and at Graph Day in January 2019, I gave this keynote where I said that Web3 was going to be better than Web2 in almost every way, both for users and developers, and that we just had a lot of work ahead of us to build out this platform and realize this vision. Shortly after, we got into Web3 winter, right? And it was brutal. Every crypto VC was telling me that it was crazy to work on Web3, that blockchains were only good for censorship-resistant money, maybe some DeFi, and you could fit everybody that was still working on Web3 in like a single room together. But we kept working on it, and December 2019, I published this blog post, The Path to Web3, kind of as an act of defiance and to try to plant a flag to say that this thing is real. And I ended the post saying, Web3 has its own unique capabilities. Developers will have better building blocks with open APIs and programmable money. Users will have more control and freedom of choice. And once we put these pieces together into a compelling package that developers can easily build on, a new race will start. We are getting close to the starting line. Just like Ethereum allowed a wave of innovation that ignited the imagination, engineers working on decentralization are going to build one level up from there. The Web3 platform, made of many protocols and components, will reignite creative spirits, and summer will return. And it has been a glorious summer. We are in the midst of a renaissance. People working on art, NFTs, DAOs, reimagining systems of coordination, and rethinking how people relate to the world around them. And this has been sparked by Web3. But what is Web3? I know. It's the vibes, right? You get some GIFs, definitely some JPEGs, sprinkle some crypto magic, and that's Web3, right? Well, the vibes are definitely important, but let's try to find like a more specific definition. So Web3 is a new platform for decentralized applications. And that's really what separates Web3 from the web, right? The web has a client-server architecture, which means whoever runs the server has complete control. We want to decentralize power, control, decision-making, and resources. And that's only possible if we build truly decentralized applications on top of a fully decentralized protocol stack. And that means no servers, right? If you are running servers with custom code running on those servers, that is not Web3, right? You have all of the same power imbalances that you have with the web. It's just a traditional web application. And it can be really tempting to just throw some logic on a server and say it's just like a small feature. But the problem is once you do that, the incentive is there to keep adding more and more functionality on the server, and that's a point of centralization. And so it really is binary. And the reason that people, projects are running these servers today, it's not because they're bad or they're evil. It's just because the Web3 stack isn't finished being built yet. So that's why it's so important for us to finish building the Web3 stack so that people can build incredible applications that are every bit as good as the apps that people are used to using, no compromise to user experience, but they run on a fully decentralized stack. And that will allow us to break free from authorities. Right? Civilizations are structured around sources of authority. Right? For over 1,000 years, the authority was, the church working together with the king, and together, they would define how resources were distributed, how decisions were made, even what was considered truth. Then, with the invention of the printing press, the power balance changed because suddenly anybody could, publish the written word and spread their ideas, releasing the monopoly that the state and the church had. In the 20th century, power got reconcentrated because of the consolidation of media companies, specifically television, radio, and newspapers. And those media corporations working in tandem with the state often, were the authorities. And today it's the internet companies, right? Facebook, Google, that really, are the authorities, again, sometimes working with the state. And we need to break free from authorities, right? So that everybody can be free to live their lives the way that they want, so that we can be free to coordinate, self-organize in the ways that we choose. And central to the idea of authority is the idea to determine what is true. And, we're seeing this front and center, with the internet, and things like fake news, this idea now of reestablishing who are the sources of authority and how do we determine truth is one of the largest civilizational issues that we need to tackle. So today, if you're browsing an internet application like Twitter, you have to completely trust the service provider to tell you what is true. Right? If I'm looking at this tweet, I know that it's coming from Elon because somebody at Twitter, the corporation, verified his identity and gave me this blue check mark. In their database, they're storing, the content, the timestamp, the number of likes, and only clients that are approved by the Twitter corporation can access that information. But it doesn't have to be that way, right? Elon could sign his messages, and then you could verify that the message came from him using public key cryptography. The metadata could be stored on a storage network. The hash could be anchored on chain so that everybody can verify that the tweet was published as of a certain block, and that data could be indexed and queried using an indexing protocol like the graph, and suddenly, this information would be verifiable. And verifiability is really key to this whole thing. And what verifiability means is that the clients can verify for themselves using a cryptographic proof that the information that they're looking at is correct. Right? You want to be able to look at a screen like this and know that every piece of information that you're seeing is true. Even if you don't trust the service provider and you assume that they're malicious that is giving you that information, there's a proof that allows you to verify for yourself. Right? And if you can't verify, then you have to trust. And if you have to trust, then you're not in control. So at a high level, we can think of Web3 as starting with a set of infrastructure protocols, which are open, permissionless, decentralized networks that you can think of as the hardware that everything runs on, and there are many of these. Then on top, you have smart contract protocols that define things like roles and permissions and value flows. Those can run on blockchains, for example. And then you have the dApps. And the dApps are the user's interface to all of these protocols. And for the user to have control, the dApps need to run on the end user's device, completely under their control. And then they interact with all of these protocols using open APIs like the graph. So you can roughly think about these infrastructure protocols as having on-chain and off-chain components. This diagram isn't exact, but the on-chain stuff is the stuff that's working really well today, right? We've got layer ones like Ethereum and others. Layer twos are working now for scalability. And so this stuff is working well. And then the part that we still need to work on is these off-chain bits, right? This is the stuff that today a lot of projects are falling back to running custom servers for some of this off-chain stuff. And that can be everything from like user tables to additional metadata, social features like likes and follows. But luckily, there are protocols for off-chain data that are getting to a really good place now. Protocols like Textile and Ceramic that allow you to implement those same types of features in a decentralized way. So a big part of the work that we have to do now to finish building out the Web3 stack is bridging together the on-chain and the off-chain data worlds, making that really easy for developers and for users so that we can build all of the different types of applications that we want on a fully decentralized stack. And platforms are generalizable, so it really doesn't matter whether you're building in DeFi, NFTs, DAOs, social, or any other application. You can build all of those things on the Web3 stack. And what we want to target for user experience is any application, whether it's notes or calendar or like DAO tools, you should be able to start in a local, offline kind of mode where all of the data stays on your device, and from there, if you want to collaborate with some other people in a team or in a trusted setting, you should be able to do that in a completely peer-to-peer way, right? With Google Docs styles syncing of your state, but without having to rely on any centralized services to collect your data or act as a central point of failure. And then if you want to publish your data, you should be able to publish that to the global graph of all of the world's public knowledge and information, where it can be verifiable and accessible to everybody, again, on open permissionless networks. Now, since the beginning, the story for verifiability for blockchains has been light clients. Right, so the most secure way to verify information on a blockchain is actually to run a full node. And that means that you're downloading all of the blocks and you're validating every single block from Genesis. But that takes a considerable amount of resources. And so the story for end user devices has been light clients. That's kind of the next step up, where you don't need to download all of the blocks, but instead you just download the headers and you can verify that the headers are correct. And then you can verify that, for example, a specific state variable in a smart contract has a certain value as of a certain block. You have to work in tandem with a full node, but you can verify that for yourself on the client. Now, the problem with light clients is, one, they still actually consume a lot of resources, so it is difficult to work, to have them run smoothly on mobile phones. But the bigger problem is that Web3 applications need more information than just the state variables in the smart contract. People use subgraphs to process data from lots of different data sources, build up custom arbitrary views on that data, and that is what you actually need to serve to the applications. And so light clients aren't enough. You actually need to be able to generate proofs that allow you to verify arbitrary views on blockchain data. And so we're working on that at the Graph. The version of the Graph network that is live in production today uses crypto economics as its security model. So indexers stake to provide their service to the network, and when they serve query responses, those come with signed attestations that can be used to launch disputes, to slash the indexers if the responses that they give are incorrect. But most people don't know this, but we've had a cryptography team working on cutting-edge zero-knowledge proofs for the last 2 years, and we're going to start publishing research that team has been doing, first with applications to some shorter term problems, and then to this larger problem of verifiable queries. What we want to be able to do is to be able to have these indexers ingesting data from these other chains. They're processing that data at indexing time, and then when a query comes in, you want to be able to generate a snark that proves that you did the computation of executing that query correctly, and that's something that's very efficient for a client to verify with no trust assumptions. And on the graph network today, we also have a set of gateways that are geographically distributed across the globe that facilitate interacting with the decentralized network. And we want to move all of that logic to the client again, so that the client and the user has complete control. And so we're starting work on a graph client which encapsulates all of this logic. So that includes the indexer selection, so choosing which indexers to use based on criteria like price, performance, security, and anything else that you want. Also moving the state channel wallet to the end user's device so that they're handling their own micropayments per API call to the indexers. The query engine for actually executing those queries potentially against multiple indexers, and the verifications so that just transparently they're verifying proofs, the snark proofs on the client. So all of this can be just really easy for developers and just hidden behind, so it really just looks like you're using a global GraphQL API to all of Web3, but all of this is happening transparently under the hood on the end user's device. And what that will enable us to do is get to the full vision of Web3, where we have tens of thousands of protocols for every area of the economy that are decentralized, that are open and permissionless. On top of those protocols, users can build and use custom interfaces that allow them to transparently use whatever of these services they want, however they want, so that they're really in control of their experience and how they design their lives and their work. And the users can build and manage their own identity, data, and reputation on their crypto accounts. That's all under their control. And so on top of this foundation, new civilizations are going to get built, and it's all going to happen soon. Thank you.